Hey, I'm here.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm working on it.
I debated. I thought if I come well dressed, they'll have it so hot, I'll die. If I don't come dressed, it'll be cold.
Yes, ma'am.
I did not know what to do.
I know, I'm the same way. But I'm kind of cold natured anyway, so.
I think I must be getting that way.
Everybody.
Hey.
How are you?
A little chilly out today.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just glad it wasn't raining.
Well, I think we've all been blessed with this
Oh,
cold
I
weather
know that.
strip that came through here.
Did y'all see the
The
frozen fog they called it this morning?
Huh?
The frozen fog, they called it this morning.
Yeah, frozen fog.
I missed it.
I said, I never heard of that.
I missed it.
I was out in it, so I've been up since before 5:30, so. Ooh. Oh.
The county I lived in a good bit of my married life, Fayette County, I don't know, I know you lived up that way. From the time I was little, we had to go through that county to get to my grandmother's, and they had so many different kinds of fog. It was swampy, it had lakes, rivers, creeks, and you cannot
That's scary.
imagine how many different kind of fogs it is. What's dangerous,
Yeah.
because a good bit of the time you couldn't see 5 feet in front of you.
I'm listening.
Hey, darling. How's my family?
Oh, I'm doing better.
Good.
Oh, that's good.
Well, I'm sorry, I lost my neck up.
No, that was it, just
I know.
different kinds that they have cave fog, they have dancing fog, they have just every kind of fog you could possibly imagine, unless you live in a really foggy area. You don't get to notice those, and the sea has a different kind of fog too.
Yes, ma'am, I just never heard of it frozen.
Yeah,
It was cold this morning, honest.
yeah.
And they didn't tell us to.
Well, it's almost like fog is just before rain, so you've always heard of freezing rain.
But I didn't know what to think. I said, I know they're crazy, but
I got a memory on Facebook, and evidently they had a snow last year, and where I live, and Lynn had taken the picture year before last.
it's I lived in Griffin too, so it's no.
Well, right down from Peachtree City.
And
in Fayette.
uh-huh.
I mean, literally almost next door. Didn't get quite the same.
I used to go to Buckhead a lot.
Oh,
I know,
long drive.
I know.
Howdy,
Hello, how are you?
Hey,
how are y'all?
we're here. How you doing?
Oh, it's been an eventful couple of days. I was out of the hospital.
Yay.
I got hurt yesterday, but they wouldn't let her out till I got there, so I had to get off school. Then about 1 o'clock, so I rushed out there in the truck and had a flat tire on the trim.
No.
So I got the jack and it's a pickup truck, so you have to do all that stupid stuff with it.
Yes.
Winding it down, put this under the bed, did all that, and didn't have anything to pump the jack. So I had to call Allstate to come do it. He did it in 5 minutes. It took him an hour and a half to get there.
Yeah, I know those rescue people are great on it.
And we got home. I was exhausted, so was she. She still is.
Mhm.
And I took her stuff out, brought it in. And this morning when I got up, I did not realize I had not closed one side of the van door. So it's cold in there.
Mm.
So I sat there for the longest time, had to leave the truck because she thought she could drive back, so I gotta go get it tomorrow. But anyhow, I drive to school, got warm, and I got in the school, got all the way out to my trailer, and they came over the intercom. So what did you drive to school? The little white van. I said, you know, got a cat in it?
Oh,
So I said, I'm on my way. I was since it was gonna be cold today, I was gonna kind of crack all the windows, you know, that'd be okay. They said, no, take it home. So I had to miss first block, bringing a cat all the way back home. And I wasn't gonna just let her loose out there because there's two little sweet ones and she's one of them. But all the way, starting that truck up, closing the door, sitting out there, and all the way to school, she never made her presence known. Then I came out there, and so since
meow, 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 rotten.
she was really, really upset that I take her to school. So I come back, and then I get back to school, somebody has printed a picture of a cat and put it on my door, taped it to my door. I left it. They had an easy class first block, third block and fourth block we talked about. We ended overpopulation in Japan and China. That's part of our, you know, how it led to the overpopulation problem in the past today. But it was awful. It really, I don't know. I can't believe this. And they've been talking about cats all day. And of all people to find it, it was the principal and assistant principal. And they
And
were
just
out.
happened to see him.
Yeah, because they come later than I did, but they were out there taking pictures of it with their phones on the dashboard.
Yay, BC, HMS, whatever. They won their second soccer game
Well,
yesterday.
that's great.
Yeah, got one tomorrow.
And one of my kids is going to state in wrestling.
Ooh,
He's still in state in the
excellent.
championship. I think he's going to be state champion runner-up at his weight class if he loses. You know, you know.
And Sean White is in the finals of
Really,
the Olympics, so yay.
yeah, we're better than we were in the Olympics a while ago. Okay. Barry, do this word prayer, please.
Sure. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to come here to worship you, to listen to these lessons. We ask you to bless this congregation and bless all who come here. We ask this in Pauline devout name. Amen.
Is your dad from the falls still?
He's busy and stuff. He's afraid he can't go. He was in bed and then go. He lays down, sits in his chair out there, watches TV, lays down again. He can make it down the hall and make it back. And Donna's got pneumonia, it looks like. She's got a lot of fluid. You give her a touch of Lasix. So, she
Like
won't
that, don't make her
she
feel
won't be
good.
in the hospital.
Mm.
All right, the problems that, I'll say one thing, and I don't know if it'll pick up into a discussion in the last 45 minutes, but the problem that Jesus is warning the disciples about, and then he says something later on that is pretty telling considering his fear. But when he says, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees, they are the ones sowing doubt. You have to ask yourself, where is there the majority of people? Are they following what Jesus has to say? Or are they Pharisees and Sadducees? Are they the Sanhedrin? I believe that's what he's referring to. He says Pharisees and Sadducees, but we'll leave it at that anyway, when he says it earlier. Are there more Sanhedrin? Are there more people that are actually going out to hear Jesus and liking what they hear?
I think we're starting to draw a crowd, and that's what's getting them upset, because it's like they're losing their grip.
It's
Seems the threat.
yeah, he does. But the point I'm trying to make is this: when you talk about sheer numbers of people, is the Sanhedrin more numerous? Not the followers of them, but the Sanhedrin, are they more numerous than the followers that are listening to Jesus? I think the followers of Jesus are way more. I mean, you talk about 5,000, talk about 4,000 everywhere he goes. That's a lot of people. And they talk about 4,000 men and 5,000 men. So that's quite a few people. We could be talking upwards between both groups.
Well, you say man, you got a wife and 2 children, so there's 10,000 people right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, on the average, a man has a wife and 2 kids.
Well, and Jewish families are much bigger than that.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
So
I don't get
I
the
think I'm
statistics,
seeing 20 to 25,000,
but whatever the average children they have.
and there's not that many people in the Sanhedrin. Yeah, they're probably feeling the threat and stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is something Churchill said. He said, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to remain silent. And that is entirely true.
Well, you can apply it today, like, look at
To
politics.
anything.
You know, like how these politicians pander to groups.
Mhm.
You know, whether it be Hispanic or black or. I walked into a.
White people.
Well, no, I mean, just.
That happens today too.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I walked into the room last night and, what's her name? I call her Pocahontas is on TV on one of the talk shows. And she was just doing like this on some tangent. My mind went blank. When she opens her mouth, my mind goes blank. And then the crowd went wild, you know, and I couldn't tell you what talk show it was, but like my brother used to say, it was one of the left wing blood nuts, and they're all like, I'm like, you're pandering to the crowd, you run with it.
Who is a fellow or an individual in recent history who is the guy in not real recent history, but in the lifetimes of people who are still alive, that everybody goes to as the embodiment of evil?
Take your pick. Now say Tom, Hitler.
Hitler is what I'm thinking.
Okay, that's what I mean. I'm kind of a history buff, so take your pick. Stalin.
Every time anybody wants to, yeah, Stalin probably did more than Hitler ever did.
Oh, he did. Well, see, that's what
But the
cracks
point
me
I'm trying
up.
to make is this.
Hitler was more.
Hitler
I'm like,
is where everybody goes. Have you noticed? If today, even in America, and on both sides, I'm not picking on Democrats, Republicans, or
oh, I know.
liberals or
It's like
conservatives.
they compare him to
They
Hitler.
compare whoever it is to Hitler. You know. Now, I'm not sticking up for Hitler. I doubt there's been too many more evil people alive in our lifetimes than him, but
About to say Tom.
well, probably on one hand, I don't think we'll ever know what Chairman Mao did.
Well, you know,
It's been buried so deeply. But the point I'm trying to make is this. What we don't understand, and this is something that I figured out in middle school years ago. I had a kid who was big, didn't let back all the time, mean, okay? He liked me for some reason, but mean, and he would pick on the other kids badly. And this was back in the old days when they didn't care. There were like 34 kids in that class. And you can't do this today, and I'm kind of glad it came, because I should have done it then, but he was gone one day. And I said, let me I asked him, so what, you heard from him? Not here today, what's wrong? Some kid said it, and said, you know, I've been noticing, y'all kind of quiet around him. What's he do? He didn't say anything, they were scared. I said, you know, I've never, you seem to be scared. I said, what I don't understand is he's just one guy. I said, there's 33 of y'all. And they looked at me. So we were going outside for something the next day when we were back. I said, hang on, I forgot something inside. Y'all go ahead. And so I went back inside to get something and took my time. You know something? Never was he a bully again.
You give him a blanket for it?
The problem is, I don't think that, and I never asked. The problem is, he's just one guy. Every time somebody brings up Hitler, or every time somebody wants to make me think their way because they bring up Hitler, I think to myself, Adolf Hitler is alive today. Not the real guy, but there
Yeah,
are
the
people,
persona of different.
I've met people just exactly like him.
Can I say
They
something?
hate,
Go ahead and cut you off.
go ahead.
But you've got to give Hitler some credit. Now, I know people look at you when you say, what? He took a bankrupt country after World War I. Well, you know, you're a history buff. The Allies were just sucking Germany dry. I mean, if the Germans had something, it's sort of like that old joke when the guy said he went to divorce court. And he said his wife looked like she was 12 years old. And the judge said, we want everything. He said, you got dreams, we want them too. The Allies were just,
He did turn that economy around, but he did it
in a
by
prudent way.
breaking
Yeah. Meaning thefts.
well, he did that eventually.
Eventually,
But
and
at
he-
first,
Well, he had a gang around him before
but he
he
ramped up the,
control.
yeah, but they were idiots.
Well,
They were just as dumb as he
Insanity.
was.
you know, that's,
The thing was though, he broke it and he sunk everything
The
in
Versailles Treaty.
industry to make war materials.
Yeah.
And war makes money.
The war makes money.
But now the point I'm trying to make, and we've taken way long to get here, is this. Hitler was not the problem, and his gang of thugs were not the problem. Those people were just mean.
Yeah.
You know,
And it was
that
just a
their own thing.
handful of them. It wasn't like,
But the problem is not Hitler. The problem is that people, and they realize it now if you talk to them. German people allowed Hitler to become what he was.
Yeah.
They knew what was going on. And this is what I'm afraid about our country many times, and I'm afraid this is what happened here. We are following someone, we're sheep. Americans don't, like we did when we began, make up our minds. We let somebody else make them up for us and lead us. And we don't say, this is wrong. Many times we get behind somebody who has a rhetoric that appeals to us. And then they can do no wrong. Yeah.
take this for work, there's no, about casting aspersions on you first. I was listening to this guy one day, he said, we have what he called voodoo doctors in our society, lawyers, doctors, ministers. You know, when I say ministers, I mean like the whole, like, you know, Catholic priest. You know, if the Pope says it's okay, it's okay. Oh, I'm Catholic, okay. Like you said, don't take my word, go open the Bible and read it. Well, I'm Catholic and the Pope said we gotta eat fish on Friday. I don't like fish, but I'll eat fish.
Well, that's been over with for years.
But you know what I mean? I can remember, I asked a friend of mine, he's a good Irish Catholic. He said, went to his house one Friday, well, we're having fish, Barry. And I was like, well, what's the occasion? And he looked at me like I was the stupidest person in the world. He said, it's Friday. And his mom just smiled and said, it's Friday, honey. We eat fish on Friday.
I've noticed that we do that a lot in today's, we either like somebody or we don't like somebody, and they can never be right, they can never be wrong, depending on whether. I want this entire world to be people who say, this is right, this is wrong, and I'm going to vote.
But you're talking,
What I'm saying
you're trying to
is,
make somebody pay.
Hitler I'm not afraid of, and modern day Hitler doesn't scare me. It's the people who will follow them. That's what frightens me. Because there is the best example that we have of a very, by the way, nice, generous, polite nation of people as a whole who went along with that. I can understand that when he says, we don't need to be ashamed anymore. We are great. We are fantastic people. They are. We don't have to feel bad anymore. You can blame the Allies all you want, and what they did was wrong at the end in the Versailles Treaty. But the thing is, what they did was wrong, but then when it gets to, building the economy, yes. Making jobs, yes. It was Hitler, people don't say this in their advertising, But it was Hitler
Who turned the economy
who
around?
invented one of the most popular automobiles that's around today.
Yeah.
The people's car, the Volkswagen. You know, it was for the people. It was built because Hitler wanted everybody to be able to afford, to own and operate an automobile.
You were sad about that, that turned into a scam at the end.
Well, it did, but at first it was a good thing,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
still is today. If you want to, in just about all over the world, and there's other companies that do it like Citroen and others now. If you want a dependable, affordable, well-made car, the Volkswagen Beetles are still, even the new ones, some of the best cars.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my dad had one from a long time ago, had no gas gauge on it. It had a lever inside that you pushed with your foot that had a gallon of gas in it. When you ran out of gas, you flipped it over, started it back up, and you had a gallon of gas to find the gas station.
For a second, be a day or two away,
You know.
because thinks they sip gas.
Well, I mean, in the eighties, when you had it, okay, we gotta go get gas real quick, and then you bought enough to get you someplace where it's cheap. Although in those days, none of the gas was very expensive. But what I'm saying is this, it's not the Hitlers or the Stalins or the Maos that we need, or the, guy that just died, not long ago, Charles Manson, that we need to worry about.
I have a
The
question for you.
people we need to worry about is the people that will blindly follow them and won't speak up. And that's us.
Do you think people are afraid? Or it's like, I don't want to rock the boat? I mean, even in Jesus' time, he had all these massive people following him. And like you said, the whole time the Pharisees and the Sadducees was like, wait a minute, we got to get rid of
And
this
yet-
little upstart.
None of them were around at the end.
Right, they all scattered like quail.
In fact, all of these people that are being fed were probably, considering where we are, were probably in the fortress of Antonia when Pilate says, "What do I do with this man as they crucify him?" Because they had been told that's what you say.
Well, it's just like, I know you don't understand, a good friend of mine, he's like you, he's a big history buff, and we got in an argument about Marxism. And he made the statement, like, he said, oh, you know what Marx said about God is the opiate for the masses. I said, I laughed. He said, what's so funny? I said, he got it wrong. The government is the opiate for the masses. But like, to bring back to your point, it's like you've got a government or a certain population of people saying, we're going to do this, follow me. Man, my techniques might get a little dirty like Hitler, but in the end, everything's going to be all right. Same way with Hitler. It's like, yeah, I got the brown shirt thugs, but even then, he got rid of them because it was like not very, like you said, politically popular to have thugs.
They probably were off to the side, the Sanhedrin, and they, by the way, they had them too. The Apostle Paul, Saul of Tarsus was one of
He
them.
was a thug, a religious thug.
So they had them too, and evidently they probably, what I'm thinking is they do what we've done before that time and after that time many times, is we've taken, oh, well, okay, yeah, well, there's the Sanhedrin, he's the guy that, all right, yeah, it makes sense.
What the zealots? Like,
And, let's, it's a resistance, I don't think this is all it is, or all it was, or all it have, but it's a resistance to change. Well, we know how things are. My uncle had a mother, she passed away, but I used to love sitting with her, hardly anybody, she could get along with anyone. She and I got along as a little kid.
she had a
But I would sit back
personality.
there in her bedroom. She had a bedroom with, she slept on a couch in there, and she had a chair, another chair for a visitor, which I was one of the very few that would sit with her. She had a television that finally, it was black and white television, and it finally caught fire. We got rid of it, but they got her a brand new one, and it was color. Had to turn the color all the way down. She had to watch it in black and white because color sends out rays that mess with your eyes,
Oh, okay.
is what she said. Never changed her the rest of her life. She lived several years after that. The thing is she had some sort of justification, but she was resistant to change. I've always done it this way. I will always do it this way. Do you remember when the older people finally got phones?
Well, that's before my time.
No, I can remember when older people first got them.
Don't cell
They had
phones?
no.
I remember the old party
The
lines.
phones in the house,
Yeah.
you know,
Rotary phones.
many of them that I knew, older people when I was a little kid, folks, the phone was magic to me. I mean, I could pick it up and call anybody and talk to them. But I can remember as a little kid, seeing older people, you know, and they'd have one. I didn't know anybody that had one, but they resented it. You know, they'd be sitting on the porch. If you wanted to call one of these people, be prepared to wait because they weren't going to answer it. Not for a long time. You had to be persistent. You know, so you're going to wait and wait. Finally, they get up and go answer. I never would have got one of these things if I knew it was going to ring all the time. You know, is what they would, you know, eventually say.
I remember the party lines.
You know, I'm not upgrading my phone, or, you know, I'm not doing this. I remember I've seen phones before that were rotary phones that had no rotary on them. You couldn't call out, you could only answer them. You know, that's, some people, that's all they wanted. You know, that's it. They resisted it. I can remember Robert E. Rayford when I moved here. I used to listen to John Boy and Billy every morning,
Yeah, I remember.
which you can't listen to because they were big racists.
Right.
But they had this guy named Robert E. Rayford. He was an old actor from many years ago. I don't know if he's still even alive. And he would make some tangent about the modern day world. He said the internet's a tool of the devil. I just know it is.
Oh,
He
yeah.
he wouldn't touch it. I don't know how he kept his job because he was in journalism. I mean,
Well, I got a question for you. And I don't like cracking on the Jewish people, because I have some good Jewish friends, and they're very devout about their religion. All your life, you've been told through the Old Testament, we're looking for the Messiah. And God said, all these prophets, you know, Isaiah, Elijah, he's coming, Moses, he's coming, he's going to come, and this is going to be the signs. And all of a sudden he gets here, and it's like, well, you know, we're not sure he fulfilled everything that God said he was going to do. He's going to be born of a virgin. He's going to be born in Bethlehem. His father's going to, you know, I mean, everything is like
and that
a checklist.
And unfortunately, that should not really surprise us.
And all of a sudden, it's like me saying, well, Joe's the preacher, but I really don't think he is the preacher here.
Well,
I'm not sure, but we're going to let him talk anyway.
well, honestly, that's actually been done here. I mean, and I hadn't been here just a little while either. They don't go here anymore, but, you know, in fact, he wanted to take my job. But when he realized how little it paid, he didn't want to do more.
Yeah, it's funny.
The,
I got a promotion one time with no pay,
yeah,
and I had to think,
Yeah, it is.
it's like, why do you want to promote me to a supervisor job with no pay? But you did it because you're a good super worker.
we are resistant to change.
But everything is in
We
a
want
flux.
things to go the way they've always been. In fact, I'll close this with this. There was a guy, and this shocked me. I had to teach this. I found it out, I told the kids, and they were shocked too. I want you to guess, because I'll do what I do with the kids. There was a director of the U.S. Patent Office. And he worked all day. And it's very hard to get a patent because they have to study it and find out and make sure that you're the one that did it.
Right.
It takes a while, sometimes years. But he said, and he looked over all these new gadgets that wanted a patent, and he said, you know, we're wasting our time with the U.S. Patent Office, we're wasting the time and the resources and money for the U.S. Patent Office. Mankind is not going to invent anything to surpass what we've already invented. Mankind has progressed as far as we'll ever progress. What year do you think that individual served as director of the patent office when he said that?
1900s.
1899.
Well, it was all
He said,
fine.
that's it. That's the pinnacle of human accomplishment.
You look at everything.
That's a pinnacle of human accomplishment.
Well, my whole
The
point is,
thing is, because we're so resistant to change,
yeah, but if you
Why?
study this all your life and somebody's coming and they get here, why would you be resistant to that? I know it kind of upset their little world because they had control of the money, they had control of the people. I get all that.
It didn't happen like they thought it was gonna happen, not that they were
They thought-
rejecting what they had learned. They had not learned it like we see it. They expected something different according to their kings, how they got Saul and David. And
Well, I realize that
they
they were
were
going to kick the Romans
expecting
out of
something different.
Jerusalem
I don't think we're any different today.
and
I
I think,
think we've learned,
I think
but
so
if it
too.
doesn't happen the way we have in mind, and we will tend to
yeah, good point.
Oh,
get together in groups that believe different things about them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But God's in charge and people see
Mhm.
what he wants us to see.
And I think,
He has a
to
plan
extend on what he said, he wasn't what they expected,
at all.
but they had a warped view of their expectation, and the reason they did is because that was what they wanted, not what was promised.
Well, I just don't even
I think you're
think it was so warped because they are my people. I'm going to rescue you. I'm gonna take you to the promised land. So there was a certain amount of arrogance
Mhm.
in what they had known, though, not what they imagined. He took them to the promised land.
He didn't
He
come.
gave them a king because they whined.
He didn't
you
come
know.
because they weren't what they wanted.
But see, that there's.
They had an expectation built not on what the prophecies were, but what they wanted.
Well, we see in the Bible, what was it in Joshua and all that back then, that everybody did what they thought was right in their own eyes.
Yeah, but my thing is, you see a man raise the dead, walk on the water, do all these miracles. They're like,
I
I don't know if I
know.
really could trust this dude. You know,
I know.
something about him is different, but
I know people that just have
I know people in Church of Christ around Georgia
every church.
that if the person is not who they want them to be, there's no good in them. And they will preach it, teach it, pitch a fit about it.
Infiltrate other minds.
And you'll never, I mean,
I mean, I've seen it happen for very little reason, except one person, two persons get together and talk
and the preacher's gone.
and,
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
usually it's gonna be the preacher's gone.
The preacher's gone, it'd be easy, and see, the problem is, when that happens, is it's not the congregation that wants him gone.
it's just a handful.
It's
of
just
people.
2 or 3 people, and the rest of the people, like sheep, well, if it's gonna ease tensions, maybe it's best.
I was sitting in a meeting one time where they were trying to get rid of the preacher, which was the agenda for all the meetings anyway.
Mhm.
And this,
You know, it's
one
a
lady,
committee.
lady that was sitting next to me, she said, well, she says, I was ashamed to bring anybody to, services here. And I looked at her and I told her, I said, well, I said, I've never heard you preach anything but the truth from the pulpit.
We don't want to
I
hear the
said,
truth.
what? So what's wrong with that? And she didn't like me from then on.
Yeah.
I've heard people though say it's not biblical. And I can tell you on more than one occasion, you say, what is the biblical against it?
Mhm.
And in fact, they can tell you any other thing, the color of the drapes and everything, but they'll never get to that point. And then they'll say, and this is not one person,
Mhm.
that I believe it is.
And that's the end of it.
And I've been to those and so I'm always amazed because unless you're really not biblical, I mean, seriously not biblical, you're in the same place everybody else is.
And
As good as the next guy.
And while we're here, sometimes it's the preacher. That's the problem. He's the one that's in front of the people telling his view of everything, and it may not be biblical either.
But my thing is, if you come up and say blah, 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 and I have an issue with it, Shouldn't I go look in the Bible and say, well, I don't believe exactly the way Job
But we
believes.
don't do that.
I try to do that because I
We
mean,
don't do that. I'm talking about we, not we, but we.
But
I
as a
understand
world,
the general
the
we.
religious world as a whole. We don't do that.
There's one that we violate all the time, is like, if you are brother's overtaken in a fault, your first step is to go to the brother and try to restore him.
Mhm.
Then, and talk to him first and see why he's in this situation, but nobody ever does that.
I had an instance happen when it wasn't here, but I've changed my mind a lot here. It was a qualification of an elder. And they told me about one of those qualifications, Joe, you're wrong. That's not what it says. And they told me why they believed it, so I went back. Sure enough, they were right. The guy was qualified. I had been looking at it wrong because that's the way I've been taught all my life. And you can be wrong. You need to be wrong in the right way. But folks, here's the thing. Hitler was wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
He should have been open. He could have been Hitler because he was so charismatic. He should have been open. You can't do this. But you give an egomaniac enough and enough and enough
Yeah.
and enough and
It's
enough,
not
and they're going to be a
virus.
monster at the end. And it was the people who should have
This
spoken
is
up, and they didn't. This is what I like about the United States of America. And I know we've got problems, but our Constitution keeps one individual from achieving that much power. And I don't think that any one individual is deserving of that much power.
Nobody.
But I don't think that any individual in the church, in religion, is worthy of that much authority. The authority and this is a Bible class, so the authority we need to pass on to Jesus. One time a little kid said, the little kid said to me, and it was funny, because I was working about getting everything started here one time, years and years ago. Said, I'm the boss. I said, what do you mean? You're the boss of what? And she pointed around and said, no, you're not. And I'm not either. Jesus is the boss. But I wonder how many times in any of our churches, whether it says Church of Christ on it or not, because I'm lumping us in with it too, if we ask who was in charge, I wonder who our members would say. The elders, the preacher, the deacons, so whatever on the bulletin
You have
is,
to have a hierarchy
the committee,
to be in charge.
and if you away from the Church of Christ, the association or the state, the
council.
countrywide organization or the synod or whatever. The thing is, nobody's in charge. And I've seen this in places where elders are. These elders come in and they think, I'm in charge. No, you're not. Because what they want to be in charge of is the stuff that deacon's supposed to be doing anyway.
They're supposed to shepherd the flock, not
They're
the
supposed
Lord.
to teach.
Teach, be able to
They're
teach.
supposed to reprove, rebuke, and correct with love, and they're supposed to do all those things. They're supposed to shepherd.
Are you smoking something?
And the
I have to go
deacons,
about it, call the police?
huh?
Are you smoking something that I do? Are you taking any kind of
No,
hallucinogenic
I'm
drugs?
just sick and tired of the.
I know, I feel the
religious
same way, it's like,
I really am, of the religious world we created. And our deacons in the Lord's church, I once sat in an elders meeting one time years ago, and again, before I came here, we haven't ever had elders Sunday here, we should. But I sat in an elders meeting with a deacon, wasn't the full deacons now, it was just one. And he had bought something for $20. And they were berating him over that. You should have got some approval from this, that, and the other person. And he left. He said, well, how do you think we handle that? And I said, guys, if he can't handle spending $20, he's not qualified to be a deacon. If you're appointed as a deacon, one of the things that you said was he's qualified to spend $20 or more too. They said, well, we have the oversight of the congregation. I said, you do. But you don't mess with that. They mess with that. If you've got time to mess with that, you don't have time to do your jobs.
But indeed, shouldn't they be telling you that?
Yeah,
I got what was
You
pointed
know,
out.
it's really important, and you said it, we should have,
But you know.
we should have, and we don't really, or I've never seen a committee to get one, but
Maybe I'm wrong.
we should have one.
well, it was pointed out to me during the
Above a
whole
preacher, we
ordeal.
should have, because they should teach.
But this was also pointed out to me, something I've never thought about before, but they're entirely right. Do the elders of a congregation, is there anyone on earth that has the oversight over them?
Good point. Yeah, the congregation should.
The answer is, there is one guy.
Yeah.
Who does Paul tell
Timothy.
to receive an accusation against an elder, and if they have 2 or 3 witnesses, not just one person, but who is to receive that accusation?
You got me on that one.
The evangelist.
Yeah,
Preacher.
because he's supposed to be the one
And
that wants to
who-
start with.
Did Paul say to appoint elders?
Preacher.
And then yet,
Wait a minute, we're giving you a lot of power here.
no, we're not, because who also has the authority to terminate a preacher?
The elders.
So
It's a check
see,
and
it's not
balance.
a lot of authority.
Right, it's a check and balance thing.
Oh, wait a minute. And we thought in our Constitution, we
Yeah.
invented the idea of checks and balances.
But my thing is,
You realize the deacons, the elders, the evangelists, the members, all of these people have God-given authority to perform their jobs.
what can I make a point here that is just, and I know I'm kind of going off to a little, like say you appoint a deacon and he's an accountant. I want that guy running the money.
Mhm.
I don't want to touch it, but if, you know, this guy's an accountant and he comes to the congregation and said, hey, look, I've been doing some figures. This is what we made, this is
The
what we
way
did.
I see it is we take guys to
Use their
handle the
talents.
physical needs of the church, and we use their talents.
Yeah, I wouldn't want an accountant running
Yeah.
maintenance
We leave them
alone.
alone.
You know, you get a guy who's, I don't know,
That's how we got
but,
Congress.
you get a guy
All
who's like,
lawyers, because that's what they do. And
Yeah.
that's where we are now.
Yeah, and you look at it,
I think God has a great deal to do in all of this,
I
in
think
the
too.
appointments. I don't think preachers should just say, well, I'm gonna
Mhm.
adopt somebody as anything, no matter what it is, you know. Secretary, maybe,
Well,
because you're gonna depend a lot on them. But God doesn't have a place in people's hearts if they're doing it because they're an accountant, not because they wanna serve God. I'd rather have the one that wants to serve God and can barely add.
right, but
but I'm talking about,
today, you've got a lot of people in the church who have a lot of talents.
But I trust God more.
And if you,
Oh, yeah.
but
I mean,
probably some.
you say yeah, but I don't think people actually think God has any play in today.
Oh, I
we
think
have
he's the
to
guy
do
that,
We have to make it
that
right.
sends the people with those talents to the people that
Oh,
actually
yeah.
get it. You know, I think that our congregations everywhere have people who truly put God first in their life and who want to serve and have eminently more talents than I do. Because see, that business about the accounting, if I had a person using the checkbook, you know, and paying the bills and keeping it, that means the most important thing to me that is that I don't have to do it. You
Well,
know, and then I've got time
exactly, but the
And
larger the
honestly-
more, so,
to honestly, even with our finances here, which by the way are not small, even with our finances here, if I dealt with that, you know how much time it spends
oh yeah, God bless her.
with that, getting the best deal on this, that, and the other, and running around and buying the stuff and bringing it here, she's in a fight with the gas company, or just ended it now. I won't go into it, but it took,
Did they leave
I wouldn't have had time
fruits and leave?
for that, you know? No, well, I could have done it.
well, that's
Yeah,
what
we
I
had to
say,
wait.
aside from the treasurer or the secretary, you know, but our leaders and deacons and elders have a unique position in the congregation. And technically, we
Well,
should
you
be raising up those people. We should be
Because
training them.
maybe I'm wrong, but it goes back to the beginning, let's start from the beginning. God, whenever he, made the earth, he gave dominion, to man, dominion over what, birds of the air, all that stuff. But I never saw in there where he gave him, one man dominion over another.
Mhm.
So, but,
And that's what I hate about the offices that we have today, evangelists and deacons and elders, is people think that when you appoint them, and this is the wrong thing to do, all of them are supposed to be humble men.
yeah,
And they are supposed to be, the physical requirements of an elder, and again, it comes to me many times, it has in my time doing it, to decide whether a man meets those qualifications. I don't look at those much. I look at them, those are just check marks. What I look at is, has a good report within and without. People said, well, you can't talk to my boss. I said, well, we don't need to consider you then, because, I can talk to your boss. If he hates you, that isn't necessarily big. You might be a horrible person that should hate you,
well, I mean, I think they have to be,
I'm gonna talk to your people, your family that are outside the church. I'm gonna talk to all these folks and see what kind of rapport you have. Usually I know this already, if I've been there for a while. But then, I have to understand that I can't appoint them. I can only recommend that they be appointed, and the congregation has to accept them. So as far as deacons are concerned too.
it's like I saw this one man who was already an elder. I mean, in, one particular meeting, and I mean, it wasn't anything big. Yeah, I mean, he just flew off the handle over nothing, or I thought it was nothing, maybe it was a big deal.
See,
And I
that's
mean,
another
just showed his,
qualification,
and
not a
I thought,
striker.
well, how did you ever begin, if you can't manage your,
Mhm.
temper any better than that, then you don't need to be an elder.
And see, everybody, all of the offices in the church are to be held humbly. And understanding that the person on earth that's at the top of authority are the members. Because if you're a leader in the church, if you're going to be a leader, you have to have the support of those whom you lead.
Amen to that.
You can't just say, I'm it, you'll do what I say. That's happened in this country many times with our political leaders. This has happened in many other countries. You don't think, in my own profession, there is one crime that the children can commit that we can write them up for that I have never in 30 years written a child up for. And that is disrespect. Now, I think I ought to get some leeway from the kids for the first month. But after that, if they have respect or don't have respect for me, I need to have earned it. A kid said this week, told me, you're different than you were at the first. I said, well, I know you better now. And I know good and well who you are now. I said, I didn't know. I said, I had to earn your respect at first. Now that I have, I can tease you. You can tease me. I mean, I can remember once a couple of years ago, a kid, I was kidding with him, and he kidded me back. I had him before, so I already had earned his respect. He didn't really earn mine. And he kidded me back. He said something about me being old or something. And the rest of the kids it fell silent.
Like, when the act, was the
I
act.
can't believe. Oh, and I really felt sorry for those kids because I wonder what kind of teachers they had. And so then I started dying laughing. And a couple of them put it, did you hear what he said to you? I said, he was kidding. I was kidding with him. If I was kidding with him, then he has every right to do that with me. We can do that? I said, of course. I said, I don't mind. I said, the only thing I have is it better be good, and it better not have any dirty words in it, but I don't really care. I mean, other than that. Folks, I think preachers, elders, deacons, school teachers, mayors, presidents, senators, take themselves a little too seriously sometimes.
They do.
You know, I had a kid complain today. Said, I like this lady, but in her class, she's talking to us about commas. Well, this is a junior who's taking all honors classes, and the honors class she's not taking, she's taking at Georgia Southern. Okay, she's taking my class. I said, well, you need to know that. She said, yeah, but I already do. You know, and, you know, if you already know it, I mean, let's face it, one of my first teachers, one of my first students, my very first year, was a lady by the name of Haley Bacon. She was a little girl in 7th grade at Haley Bacon. I taught her math, and I knew eminently more about math than she did. And she was one of the few people who loved it. Well, she's now at the high school as a teacher, named Haley Neesmith now. And I can tell you this, the student has far surpassed the teacher in math. She teaches calculus and, you know, all this other stuff too. But what I'm saying is this, I need to have the respect that kid needs to come to and ask for help with math. But I also need to have the humility and respect for her when she becomes an adult, that I can go to her, and I have done this many times, to ask her how to help a kid with math who asked me for help. During my homeroom or what's now called the advisement class. And she's happy to do it. I mean, oh, you know, the tables turn, you're not, no, I've learned a little bit more about math than I did in there, but she's learned eminently more than I have. The thing is, you can't lead people who won't follow their sheep. They will go to whoever's the loudest, or go to whoever's the meanest, or go to whoever is that and that.
Well, if people know you have their best interest at heart, they'll go to all odds to follow you if you treat them right and try to,
And to help you lead.
and yeah, to help me.
They will. I mean, the thing is, if people want you to succeed, they will help you lead.
Yeah,
I've noticed that. I have a young man, he's in 9th grade, his sister's in the 11th grade right now. They're both in the same class. You know, my class. And he's kind of a middle school kid. He's still in 9th grade a little bit, you know. And she will turn around and say, would you be quiet? He's trying to talk. Other people can't listen. And when I get home, I'm going to tell mother. And that's the end of it. The thing is, you have to want to follow an individual before that individual can lead you anywhere. And that is, and there's no point in appointing a leader who people will not follow. And the odd thing about it is, the Sanhedrin that we're talking about, within a decade, they're going to mess it all up. Nobody's going to follow them anymore. And within about 40 years, they're going to all be done. Anyway, they're finished. All of them are no longer going to be anything anymore. If they got caught, they would have probably been dead. I think, Vic, you're probably right. I think that what the Jews were looking for is somebody that was going to come and put the Jews in the place of the Romans. Make the Jews listen to this, and this doesn't sound like recent history. Make the Jews the master race. You know? Make the Jews the ones on top, where it was the Greeks. Before that, it was the Egyptians. After that, it was the Romans. Now it's our turn. We're going to be at the top.
Look at the book of Daniel. Didn't he explain that already? These things were going to come, does it?
And the parable of the statue, or the
the statue, the gold, the bronze,
Mhm.
the iron, it all represented,
The clay.
the clay. The Romans had iron and clay. It's like,
They weren't going to lie.
right, it's like,
And, you know,
Daniel tells you,
All
God
the
tells you
other-
this prophet, and you're like, oh, okay, good
all
story.
the other empires, they never lasted.
Well, as a whole, we're coming to not want to revere history. We're not wanting to, and I hearing people talk and seeing the trends,
Mhm.
you know, we don't want to learn from history. We are woke, we are CRT, we have all these imagined situations, and they want equity. And so consequently, when you have that mindset, you're not going to the truth.
Mhm.
There, you know, you can teach it all you want to, and you can say what you want to about it. It is not for a mindset for people to be godly, for people to do it because it's within. I think at one point we were headed that way, but, you know, there's a different mindset in the country,
Mhm.
and COVID brought it to the forefront. Not the cause by any means, but it brought it to the forefront. This is what people want. This is, people want to not believe the truth, to believe their conscience.
Your mind's got to be, it's like I wrote, quote, I don't know who said it, that said, somebody who's prejudiced, their minds are closed to the truth. It said an honest man alters his opinions, to fit those of the scriptures.
Mhm. Which is true. And
Totally.
we kind of, we want to be led. We don't want to make our own decisions.
Well, I remember a time, because I'm older.
Not that much.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean,
And, you know, that people, I don't, this I don't know, because I was growing up, so I didn't know so much as I do now. But, they weighed the evidence.
Mhm.
They didn't take a media's headlines.
Mhm.
The people I know today, personally, again, I only deal with what I know, do not want to find the studies. They want to go with the headlines, and they want to believe what they already believe. They haven't been convinced.
Mhm.
They want to believe
Probably
what
can't
they
be.
already think they know.
Probably can't be.
You know, we've had a lot of movies. Stephen King sort of started it with The Stand. You know, this is nothing new, and how people would act 50 years later. You know, that it's,
If you,
people think they know what they know,
Yeah.
and they don't look at the studies that CDC now, all the people come up with. They don't look at the studies and see where they went, because I've suggested a few people that are pretty adamant about it, and they're not interested.
Mhm.
They want to believe what they believe.
Well, I think we need to have beliefs, but I think we need to challenge those beliefs
Well, your
quite
beliefs
often.
often change,
Mhm.
you know, because you do adjust
It's just
yourself.
there's
Because
only
you
one
see
constant
the
in the
studies
universe,
and stuff.
change.
To me, I always go to the studies. That's the first thing I do. Headlines are out. And,
Every
I'm amazed.
administration, whether it be communist, socialist, Marxist, a mixture of all above, only lasts for a season.
Do you know the trend in the college age for socialism is almost, it's over the tipping point of being a majority.
Mhm.
They believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, and that socialism is in fact the answer. And they also believe that we're getting paid back because our forefathers were evil. And they've done studies, and they've taken up and gone to colleges and universities more so than high schools.
You know,
Most
where
of our places
we,
go to college.
in this country, have dabbled in socialism, which we still do. It hasn't had a good track record all the time. And again, socialist things that we do, we're probably always going to do it that way.
Well, socialists is not the same as socialism. And we have our checks and balances with the court,
What I
with
teach
the
at school
legislature, and,
is that here's
Congress.
communism, here's capitalism. Socialism is a line between the two. Socialism is not, because there are no capitalist countries today. There
Not
are
true
no communist
capitalism.
countries today.
No,
China is very, very near with their level of socialism to communism, as is Vietnam and North Korea. North Korea is pulling back, China's China. The United States is very close to capitalism with their level of socialism. You know, in the middle are the poorer countries that can't support as many freedoms as we have, but their governments are taking over essential businesses to keep their country running. You know, we have a fair amount of socialism in our country.
farm
My
subsidies,
job
education
is
subsidies,
socialism
that's
in
just,
America. The police force, the military, post office, which is failing from what I understand. I heard on the news today, they're having trouble. Several things are socialist, but it's not gonna fix things to socialize something. Lenin found that out. Stalin found that out. Mao Zedong found that out. Marx never did. He died before it ever got
yeah,
a
guy
chance.
ground.
It's not gonna be the be all and end all when you socialize something. You know, there's a big debate right now whether to socialize medicine or not. The problem is, we've already sort of partially done so, and we shouldn't.
Here,
You can't make it better by giving the government control of it.
no, you'll make it worse. But
no,
what got me
that's
was,
exactly,
when they
and
did
that's
the,
why we have the checks and balances all around now.
And, you know, that's the thing about,
If philanthropy
Education.
has a place,
we have that in education, you know, that the federal funds come to us, but we can only spend it for certain things, and that list changes every year. And I'm glad it does, because it looks like people are reevaluating everything. The state funds, the same thing, there's certain things we can and cannot buy with tax money.
well, what happens is when you get a group of people that think they're above the law, and right now we're in the middle of it because they believe
that's
that
every politician.
they can do that and give the funds to Planned Parenthood, which is not qualified. They have been turned down for years, and yet this government says we can go ahead and give them, and we don't have to tell you how much.
So Joe, I got a question for you. Why is it a communist country? I said pseudo-communist. Putin, now, we know Putin's a thug, but I respect him in the sense that he doesn't allow homosexuality. He doesn't allow, parenthood. You know what I mean? It's like, to him, it's like, I know I'm a thug, I'm a murderer, I'm a thief, I'm all these things.
He
but just-
doesn't officially do that, but he socially does that, which is just as bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's.
He empowers groups, like in this country, would be the Klan.
But this
to
is
oppose what he does.
how either religion is going to be squashed in this atmosphere if it continues. I mean, we're not, if you say you're a Christian now, 50 years ago, that was a plus. Now, not necessarily so, and sometimes can actually have
Okay.
backdraft on some of this stuff. But,
Some people-
if we don't learn this and we don't start doing it God's way, not our preferred or imagined or whatever, right and wrong is really a difficult thing. Every situation, you have to make your judgment. But if we don't have that heart for God, and I think that's where David, even though it's later years, where'd he go? Where'd his brain go?
The good thing about what you're talking about, we're all talking about, the good thing about Christianity is that it can exist in its purest form. It can exist anywhere and under any government. As long as, now in many governments, people have to disguise what they're doing, and that's not even a good word. redirect what they're doing. Anyway, in this country, the church should be thankful for one thing. No matter what kind of politicians that we have, no matter what they agree with and want to legalize or make illegal, criminalize, as long as we, as churches and as individuals, have the freedom of speech guaranteed to us by the Constitution,
Well,
we can exist.
I so admire, is his name Bastiama?
Abbasiana, yeah.
Ka,
Abbasiana.
Bastiama. That, several times in the past years when I've seen it, he ran out the back door as the killers were coming in the front door. If that's not God, where are we? But, he has several times written us that he literally ran out the back door as his killers were coming in the front door.
Abbasiana or
So,
Tom?
oh,
Tom?
I don't
I
know.
think it's Tom that you're talking
Well,
about.
I don't know. At first I thought they were the same person for several years. But,
He's a student of Tom.
he did,
And he's involved. in
people, they were killing his congregation then, Tom.
They were going to, yeah.
And some did though. That's how they had the orphans.
And Abbasiana has a student going to Nigeria. He's in Cameroon, who was killed on his way to class in Nigeria. And Abbasiana, I remember saying, we will redouble our efforts to send men to preach school in jobs.
Yeah.
Tom is the one that many times decided to put his family in a safe place, and there were no men allowed in that safe place. So he had to run with his fellow teachers into the jungle and hide.
Yeah.
Also, they had to have two congregations at Boron, Village of Boron, because of the distance, but also because it's not safe to pass in between the two.
I have so much respect. If that's not God at work
And you see,
on the ground floor,
Tom has the ability, if he wants to come to the States and
Yeah.
work, because he has a master's degree in chemistry and also a master's degree in Bible and religion that we helped him get and send him back. Now, the former missionary that we had that I really fell in love with and was really very disillusioned was Richard in Cameroon. And when he and his wife won the immigration lottery, they live in Minnesota now. Wanted to come here, and I said no. Tom can come here, he refuses because he says if I leave, everything will go. And he's right. I mean, at the time he told that to me, he was one of the instructors there at the School of Biblical Studies. He's now the president because the president had to retire because of old age.
well, all of those missionaries like that, I think they're men of God. And they have, I want to pray for them all the time because they have danger everywhere. But we do too. I hope my neighbors would stand up for me.
Which, oddly enough,
A lot of them are afraid.
the school is in the middle of a highly Muslim area.
Yeah.
And the Muslims there have saved them so many times. When rioters and things come through, they say, we're not touching that place. They've been good to us. We've been good to them. They're our neighbors. And they let them alone. The church there, the school there, has a very good reputation among the Muslims, even among the Muslim extremists that are there. Tom lives in a home with a huge, and everybody does, stone wall around it with wire and broken glass and sharp metal on the top of it, and several German shepherds inside the compound. And that's how he lives at night. That's how he lives during the day. And then he has to make his way many times without any incident to his job at the school. But many times he has to sneak through back alleys and things like that, because of who he is. This is why I've never gone. It's because I do not want to draw attention to either one of them. Because let's face it, you're not going to hide the fact that I don't belong in Cameroon or Nigeria. I have been invited, and I may do this after I retire, to speak at the lectureship there at the school,
Yeah.
because they're kind of used to that. But, other than that, no, I'm not gonna draw attention. to
And I
it.
pray for the time you retire that you can go.
Mhm.
Isn't Nigeria divided into north and south? And
North
one
is
was more Christian.
Islam and south is Christian.
Christian, yeah.
All right, I don't know that we were gonna do anything we were supposed to, but, anyway. Anyway,
We do have some lively discussions here.
well,
on
yes,
this
we
tonight.
do. All right, let's do 556, the first verse. 556, it's one of my favorite songs.
Do we have any people with us tonight?
Donna's listening in on my
Donna
computer.
is.
So, that is probably good. 556, if you stand in need, either at home or listening to this later, we come and make whatever decision you need to make, together stand as we sing. Some glad morning we shall see Jesus in the air, coming after you and me, joy is ours to share. What rejoicing there will be when the saints shall rise, headed for that jubilee yonder in the skies. Oh, what singing, oh, what shouting, on that happy morning when we all shall rise. Oh, what glory, hallelujah, when we meet our blessed Savior in the skies. Shall we pray? Almighty God, Father of all, we thank you this day and many blessings that we each have. We pray, Father, that our lot in life to carry your word, to carry the gospel, will remain one that we're guaranteed in our nation and will remain one of the freedoms that we have. And pray, Father, that everyone in this world of ours will have that freedom in their respective nations. And we also pray, Heavenly Father, that those who have that freedom will use it. You care for each and every one of us, Father. Please forgive us when we stumble. And please guide, guard, and direct us all the rest of the days of our lives. Dismiss us from this place, but never from our presence. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Can we go over the yeast next week?
Do what now?
Can we go over the yeast next week? Can we start there again?
The
There was
yeast,
a few things I had a question about,
Okay.
so we can just pick it up a little bit.
All right. That's fine with me. Let's see.
I'd always thought about the yeast, when it says beware the yeast or the leaven of the Pharisees, and that there was that not be molded like by them or beware their habits, that you don't become.
Let's see. What are we gonna do? What else do I have to say? There's a Super Sunday coming up soon.
I think it's when.
I think it's like 2 more Sundays and another one.
Well, I'm gonna be here this Sunday, but I'm gonna be gone for a couple of weeks
Where you going?
to
Texas.
Texas.
Why?
Well,
That's where her daughter lives.
daughter lives out there, and they think I need to get away for a little while. So
I think she needs to get away.
Y'all have a good visit.
we will.
And Barry have the house to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been working, I'm like, what else will I be doing? Go home, sleep, eat,
And then Joe and Kim, I thought were coming back today. He went to orientation Monday, Tuesday for his new job. And they texted me yesterday that they would probably be back. I guess they're not typically good. They would be back. Donna's not doing too well. It's actually has pneumonia. You can actually hear the fluid when she breathes. Dad's real busy and this, that, and the other, but he's kind of moving around a little bit more, take care of himself a little more than he has been.
Give a shot of steroids.
I'm kind of proud of him lately because he's, doing a little bit more. Does get dizzy when he walks. I'm not really sure what that is. Could be
Blood pressure.
problems. But
Is he on blood pressure
what he's
medicine?
doing is what the doctors and the hospitals are saying for him to do. He needs to get out and get more active.
Yeah, if you rest, you rust.
I bought her a bike,
Oh, yeah.
kind of stand. But I told my sister that, and she's like, oh my God, Mom can't get on a bike, like say Sherry bike. She goes, I'm like, you have to love my sister. Oh my God, it's like, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, and I feel bad. She fell off of for 5 minutes. I said, you think I'm stupid? I got her one that you just sit down and pedal, a reclining bike.
Oh,
In
yeah.
Kentucky when they didn't have, well, we didn't have pianos, but some churches of Christ did because it's a border state, big Christian churches. people would come in and start visitors would look around.
Where's the piano?
We seen if you have a piano. I said, oh, goodness, great, can you play?
Yeah, thank
You
you.
would look at me like, we don't have it, don't worry about it.
But I just wanna
Y'all be
explain how-
careful.
They think you can't afford one.
Well, my thing is.
Don't stay in Texas.
No, she'll be back.
When I did that, I'm like.
They can't keep the lights on there.
Yeah.
There is a bottle of water.
They always go out when you need the heat. In Texas, they did again this week. This can get
No, I didn't.
The storm that we had, the cold that we had, they had a huge ice storm with it. Power went out again. They promised it would never happen again.
Wow.
You'll love this. I was in a patient's room and I just busted out laughing. Some politician, remember when they had that snowstorm last year in Texas? The
Yeah.
blizzard? Now, my brother-in-law works for the Department of